We are this close.
This close.
Toeterek modest.
We are this close.
This close to making history.
This close.
We're this close. This close. We are this close.
We are this close.
This close.
This close to changing the world.
We are this close to making sure no child suffers a crippling disease
Ever again.
We are this close to making history.
We are this close to ending polio.
We're this close to ending polio. We're this close.
This close.
This close to ending polio.
This close.
We are this close to ending polio. All we need is you.
All we need is you.
All we need is you. Is you.
All we need is you.
This close.
If we don't act now, we may lose this chance forever. Help Rotary make history at endpolio.org.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Rotary E-Club of 3310 panel discussion. This evening topic is about Rotary's End Polio Now journey. Rotary Polio Plus program reflects the fact that infrastructure, fundraising, advocacy methods developed for the polio eradication campaign also support efforts to fight other infectious diseases. We have helped with other vaccine preventable diseases through Polio Plus and have assisted the world in responding to Ebola and COVID-19 recently. Today, 19 million people are walking on Earth who would otherwise have been paralyzed. An estimated 650,000 cases are now prevented each year. Since 1988, 3 billion children received the polio oral vaccines. More than 430 million children in 40 plus countries were vaccinated using 1.2 billion doses of oral polio vaccines just in 2019 alone. So ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to this panel discussion to learn, to get engaged, and of course, welcome you to become one of our advocates to try to eradicate polio from this world. Tonight, I have a wonderful list of panelists. All of them have contributed tremendously to Rotary's End Polio Eradication Program. They are all recognized for their commitment by Rotary International as well as the Rotary Foundation. So congratulations, each and every one of them. The first person I'd like to introduce is District Governor-elect Dolly Yeap. Dolly Yeap is from the Rotary Club of Kulai in District 3310, my home district. She received Regional Service Award for a polio-free world in 2018, as well as the Rotary Foundation for meritorious service in 2019. She was for the last 3 years the District Polio Plus Subcommittee Chair. During her term, the district has done many End Polio Now awareness campaign and fundraising program. Dolly, would you like to say a few words to the audience?
Yes, good evening. I'm glad that you are here. I hope that you will enjoy the session. I'll see you again.
Thank you. Thank you. The next person is our past district governor, Shehzad Ahmed from the Rotary Club of Lahore Garrison in District 3272 in Pakistan. A man of numerous accolades. First of all, he's the Rotary coordinator of Zone 1B, which includes Bangladesh, Indonesia, Pakistan. He's a member of the Council on Legislation and chair of the Rotary Action Group for Blindness Prevention. Shehzad received the Service Above Self Award, the highest recognition for Rotarians. He also received the Regional Service Award for a polio-free world, as well as the Rotary Foundation Citation for Meritorious Service Award. PDG Shehzad.
Hello everyone. I'm excited to be a part of this elite panel and look forward to an informative and productive session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The third panelist is PP Susanne Rea from the Rotary Club of Kane Sunrise District 9550 in Australia. Back in 2017, Susanne received the OAM, which is the Medal of the Order of Australia for her outstanding achievement and service. She also received the International Service Award for a polio-free world back in 2017, 2014, 2015, and the Citation for a Meritorious Service Award in 2013. Her life mission by initiating the world's greatest meal to help end polio has changed many lives. She is a champion fundraiser for the Rotary Foundation annual program fund as well as Polio Plus. In total, she has raised more than 12 million US dollars to her credit. Susanne.
Hello from Australia. I'm delighted to be with you all. And I hope to give you some tips about fundraising so that you can contribute even more to help end polio. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanne. Last but of course not least is my good friend all the way from Indonesia, past President John Soe from the Rotary Club of Jakarta Central District 3410. To put it in very simple words and to describe him, he's an architect, he's a polio survivor, he's a polio activist, and of course, a Rotarian. John received his Regional Service Award for a polio-free world in 2012 and the Service Above Self Award in 2014. Wow, he's a great guy. Over to you, John.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this evening. I will talk a bit about my life as a polio survivor and will mention a little bit on the effect of polio 15 to 40 years later. We'll look forward to see you soon.
Can you hear me? Dolly? Can you explain what happened when Rotary first began the journey to now with our polio eradication campaign?
Thank you for the opportunity, Charter President Van Seng, to provide a brief happenings of polio in Rotary. Rotary's involvement in the polio eradication began in 1979 with a 5 years commitment to provide and help deliver polio vaccine to 6 million children in the Philippines. This was the first project of the then new 3H program. The H represent health, hunger, and humanity. In the early 1980s, Rotary began planning the most ambitious program in its history to immunize the world's children against polio. The plan requires collaboration with international, national, and the local health agencies. It was during Rotary International President Carlos Canseco, Rotary year 1984 to 85. He's a Mexican physician and philanthropist. As a president of Rotary International and inspired by Dr. Francisco Blanes, a Spanish doctor, Rotary International President Dr. Carlos launched an international campaign to eradicate polio by using an aerosol vaccination he co-developed with Dr. Albert Sabin in 1982. How interesting, isn't it? He started the worldwide program Polio Plus to eradicate polio. Dr. Albert was the developer of the oral polio vaccine. He was appointed to serve as a special consultant to the polio in 2005 committee. Thus, in 1985, Rotary launched an ambitious program to end polio, making it the second disease after smallpox. Yes, that's right, after smallpox, to be eradicated from the world. In 1988, Rotary, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention launched the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, which is known as GPEI. In 2007, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation joined Rotary in its commitment to ending polio and issue a 100 million challenge where the Gates Foundation will match Rotary with the amount raised. Since 2013, the Gates Foundation has matched every dollar Rotary commits to polio eradication 2-to-1, up to 35 million per year. Rotary, with the matching funds from the Gates Foundation, has contributed more than 2.2 billion to polio eradication. Through decades of commitments and work by Rotary and our partners, more than 2.5 billion children have received the oral vaccine. I hope you have enjoyed the brief introduction of our Rotary journey in polio eradication.
Thank you, Dolly. Much appreciated to give us a bit of a background of what Rotary has been doing to try to eradicate polio from this world. Nigeria was the last African country to be declared free of polio, or free of wild polio, to be specific, having accounted for more than half of all global cases less than a decade ago. In August 2020, Africa was finally declared free of wild polio. Today, this disease only exists in 2 countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan. PDG Shehzad, can you share with us the current wild polio situation in Pakistan and Afghanistan, and what have been done to control the wild polio virus there? What are the challenges faced by the volunteers trying to do immunization in the countries? PDG?
Thank you, Past President Soe. So I'll just like to start my statement with saying that there are actually 3 types of wild polio virus, 3 strains. And thanks to the hard work done by Rotary, and our global partners, we are left with only one strain now, which is type 1. So type 2 and type 3 have been totally eradicated, and this all credit goes to Rotary and its global partners. I have a few slides that I like to show, just to go through some of the slides. So the first one is, next one. It was in 1985 when Rotary said that if we all work together, we can eliminate polio from the whole world. At that time, there used to be more than 325,000 cases all over the world in more than 125 polio endemic countries. But thanks to our efforts by Rotary and its partners, in the next slide we'll see that in 2011, there were only less than 1,000 polio cases, and there were only 4 countries left. So from 125 polio endemic countries to only 4. And those were Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, and Nigeria. And there was a terminology that pain of the world is in these 4 countries because of polio. We made further progress, and in 2014, India became polio-free by having 3 years without polio. And we further made progress, and in just recently, 2 months ago, in the next slide, we'll see that Nigeria also became polio-free. Because of that, the whole continent of Africa becomes wild polio-free. So there are only 2 polio endemic countries left now, Afghanistan and Pakistan. In the next slide, we'll see the number of polio cases in different years. So we can see that 2018 was a good year, but then we have seen an increase in the polio cases in both countries. And of course, there are reasons, the security reasons, there are a few others that I talk about later. Now we'll go to the next slide, which shows role of Rotary in polio eradication in Pakistan, and the same actually goes for Afghanistan as well. So Rotarians actively participate in routine immunization. In Pakistan, we have speaking story books giving the message of polio awareness to young children. We also have cross-border permanent transit points, which are basically containers converted into the polio centers. So all traffic going on busy highways are stopped at these points, and the volunteers and health workers give polio drops to all the children traveling there. We are also setting up and installing solar water filtration plants in high-risk areas. Rotary polio resource centers provide information about polio awareness and eradication. We also have permanent immunization centers and also polio kiosks at public places like the airports, railway stations, bus stations. We also regularly organize health camps, which not only cater to polio immunization, giving polio drops, but also other health-related matters for children as well as their family members. And in some of the high-risk areas, cleanliness campaigns are initiated by Rotarians in Pakistan. So these are the same initiatives, more or less, which are done in Afghanistan also. In the next few slides, I'll just show you some of the polio activities which are being carried out in Pakistan. So these blue vaccine carriers, these have been sponsored by Rotary International, and these are given to the health department, and through the health department to the health workers. So all these health workers going door to door, giving polio drops, carry these blue polio vaccine carriers, which prominently show the End Polio Now logo in it. And with ice in these vaccine carriers, the vaccine can remain safe for up to 16 hours. Next one is where we have invited Rotarians from all over the world to come to Pakistan and participate in the national polio immunization campaigns. And you can see one of the photographs is of past President Susanne Rea, who happens to be one of the panelist members today. Next one is other polio awareness and eradication activities. We do these on the roadside, we do these in the schools, we do in the health tournament, in the sports tournaments. We go to the schools and also give interviews to electronic media and print media. Next one shows some of the polio awareness walks which we have sponsored, and in these walks we give gifts to the children also, just for their participation and for as a token of appreciation for their participation. Now, not only Rotarians are actively involved in it, our Rotary Club members also actively participate in these polio campaigns. And in the next slide, we'll see some of the activities of the Rotary Club members in Pakistan. Now, I'll just briefly talk about some of the challenges that we are facing. There are different rumors which are passed on from time to time. And one of these is that people say that the vaccine will create infertility. But then, because of we have involved the renowned health officials, doctors in Pakistan, who have said that this is not the case. And another one is that there is a misconception that the contents are made of haram material, which in the Muslim faith we cannot eat. So again, we have involved our religious scholars, and so religious scholars are on board, and they have given their fatwas or religious verdicts, and they have said that there is nothing wrong with it. And in fact, in some cases, the religious leaders have taken this vaccine polio drops openly, just to prove the point that there is nothing wrong with it. And of course, there are security issues in both countries, Pakistan and Afghanistan. For quite some time, northwestern part of Pakistan, a small belt bordering Afghanistan, was inaccessible, and we could not give any polio drops to more than 300,000 children. Not only polio drops, no vaccine activity, no routine immunization activity could take place. But thanks God, now the situation has improved a lot. Everything is accessible area now. All areas are accessible, and health officials are able to go everywhere to give these polio drops to the children. The recent challenge was because of the COVID situation, that all activities, immunization activities, including polio drops, were stopped for about 6 months, and we just restarted them last month, where we had our National Immunization Day campaign after a gap of 6 months. So since the time is short, I can go on and on it, but I just thank all the Rotarians for supporting the cause. This is a worldwide Rotary's flagship project, and it is Rotary's commitment that we will not stop till we achieve our goal of polio-free world, until we can give the gift of polio-free world to the children of the whole world. And remember, we have to continue our efforts. We have to continue giving polio drops to the children less than 5 years of age till we achieve this goal. Because remember, polio virus does not need any passport or a visa, and it is only a plane ride away. So this is a cause of concern for us in Pakistan, and also for the whole global community. And I again thank all the global community, especially the Rotarians and their global partners, in carrying out this massive task. And we are very close to it. And inshallah, God willing, we will be able to achieve our target soon. Thank you.
Thank you, PDG Shehzad. I think it was a wonderful situation that you are able to share with us the 2 countries that's left with wild polio virus. And I think that the challenges are quite great. And I think that people have a lot of prejudice. And I'm glad that you share some examples of what the volunteers have to do in order to convince the people that it's actually very safe. When I was growing up in preschool, I remember standing in a queue, to receive a tablespoon of sweet syrup. We all didn't know what it was, but we know that it was very good. And we wanted to be in a queue to have something sweet. And do you know what it is? That's basically the oral polio vaccine during those early days, which was given in the teaspoon. Polio usually affects children under 5, sometimes leading to irreversible paralysis and even death. Polio usually affects children, and apparently it affects people in different ways. I was very inspired by a very young lady when I was growing up, a lady called Lady Wilma Rudolph. I'm not sure whether you have heard of her, but when she was very young, she had a lot of health problems. One of the things was because she had polio and was temporarily paralyzed with her left leg and had to wear braces and orthopedic shoes until she was 12. Her father gave up on her and says she will never walk again. But the mother says that you will walk. And because of the love of the mother, the family members took turns to massage her left leg. The good thing is that she began to believe her mother, and her life changed after she was 12. In 1960, at the Rome Olympics, she became the first African woman to win 3 gold medals in the single Olympics. Lessons learned: never give up, and family warmth makes the big difference in your life. Susanne Rea, I'm surprised to hear that you are also a polio survivor, because you look so much like me and the rest of us. Could you share with us your personal journey and your struggle with polio, Susanne?
Certainly. Well, I think, to be honest, you know, if you just look at John Soe as well, he looks exactly like the rest of us. It's only when you look at our legs and sometimes our hands are involved that you could see that there are problems. So my personal story was I was a little girl growing up in England before the vaccine was invented. And one day I woke up and I couldn't get out of bed. And so, as my parents feared, I had the polio virus paralyzing my legs. So then I went to spend a year in hospital, approximately, in isolation, I might add, with other children, and could just see my parents through a little round window. This was very difficult. As the paralysis gradually left me, I was engaged with remedial exercises, including skating, which did me a lot of good. And I fortunately finally got to school when I was around 7. Of course, I was quite teased for being so big in the class and so ignorant. But anyway, I got over that. I must tell you, though, that polio survivors, they still have brains. And in fact, a lot of very clever people are polio survivors, including John and myself. And I just want you to know that it doesn't affect the way we can interact or be Rotarians. I lived and worked in Pakistan for the End Polio cause, vaccinating children, and I've stayed with PDG Shehzad, my second home, so many times. And he knows that I have a trouble to get up his stairs, but, you know, that's okay. I can do it. I just urge people to think of the children that are living in third world countries and give them a polio-free world soon, because they don't all have the benefits that I've had in medical treatment over the years, with 18 orthopedic operations to keep me walking. So please think of these children, and let's end polio for every child really soon. It takes money. It takes a lot of money. But we are here to help the Rotary Foundation supply that money to help those children. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanne. John? John.
Yes.
I know that you had a very difficult childhood with family of rejection, multiple corrective surgery, and so forth. Would you like to share with us your story and elaborate on the effect of post-polio syndrome, PPS as they say, which many medical doctors today are still not familiar? Is this life-threatening, the PPS, I mean?
Thank you, JP Banseng. 61 years ago, when I was 4 months old, my body was infected with polio virus. I became weak and my bones became deformed. Back in the 1950s, that disease was certainly spectacular. It struck, it killed, or it left its permanent trademark on so many of us, polio. My parents believed that I was a curse, evil misfortune, a calamity for the family. So to reverse the curse and to cleanse our household from bad luck and misfortune, I was deposited in a house of God, a convent in Medan, North Sumatra, disowned, abandoned, and forsaken. It may sound strange when I recall as a child until today, I never blame my parents. I never blame God. I never blame anyone for mistreating me or for those polio that shaped my life. I was just another one of those children at the convent with my own type of problem, a child of nuns cared for by nuns. The next slide, please. I spent my days among 200 children, some blind, deaf, crippled, and orphans. This meant that some could not hear, some could not see. Me, I just could not walk. That was my specific problem. At weekends and holidays, the parents of the other kids will come for visit, bringing foods, sweets, presents, or take them out for the day. No one came for me. I was nobody's child. Next slide. At one period of time, the convent had to literally close down for a major renovations. The nuns had no choice but to bring me back to my family. What followed was a devastating time for me. My family refused, but finally gave in and allowed me, the outcast son, to stay. I was put at the back of our house in a tiny courtyard, away from my siblings and only allowed in the house at night or when it rains, and to sleep on the floor. I was nobody's child. Next slide, please. I felt this way until the age of 13. Next slide, please. When Ted the Ponte came to the convent and entered into my life. Ted was a kind man with a generous heart full of compassion. He was a former Red Cross volunteer. He was a Rotarian. Sadly, he passed away in February 1990, leaving a legacy that would be a source of inspiration to others. Frequent visit followed by my new foster father, and gradually drew the attention of some Rotarians from Singapore and the Netherlands. Followed by doctors' examinations, resulted in a serious orthopedic surgery, remaining in the hospital for 9 months. The convent and nuns cared for me in the early part of my life. Then later, Rotarians took care of me. I was nobody's child. Now, I was a child of Rotary. My friends, for many years, I had to struggle and come to terms with my disability. Now I felt empowered to utilize and display my abilities. Polio left me with a lot of advantages. I learned not only to be independent, but to insist on it. Next slide, please. My struggles when growing up with a disability were certainly continuous. Next slide, please. Only a polio survivor can develop post-polio syndrome. While polio is a contagious disease, post-polio syndrome is not. PPS is a condition that affects polio survivors years after recovery from an initial acute attack of the poliomyelitis virus. The polio virus attacks specific neurons in the brainstem and spinal cord. Most often, polio survivors start to experience gradual new weakening muscles that were previously affected by the polio infection. Weakness in swallowing muscles can result in aspiration of food and liquids into the lungs and lead to pneumonia. There is currently no cure for post-polio syndrome, so treatment focuses on helping to manage the symptoms and improving the quality of life. A major problem confronting millions of polio survivors is that too few doctors in both industrial and developing countries have little knowledge or understanding of it, even in advanced countries. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was very interesting. All of us have heard earlier that wild polio has been eradicated in Africa and that there are only 2 countries left. Can you remember which are the 2 countries? Pakistan and Afghanistan. But eradication of wild polio is just half the journey. There has been sporadic new cases coming out of vaccine-derived polio. And now people are a little bit concerned. To totally eradicate polio from the face of this world, we need to address vaccine-derived polio and the challenges that we face to totally eradicate polio entirely. This year, as you have heard from PDG Shehzad, that there are something like 302 cases of circulating vaccine-derived polio in 12 countries in Asia and as well as in Africa, exceeding the 121 cases of wild polio virus in Pakistan and Afghanistan. The world continues to use the oral polio vaccine for both wild polio virus and circulating derived polio virus. PDG, why and how can we stop the circulation of vaccine-derived polio entirely? PDG Shehzad? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I had unmuted. I had muted myself just to have a smooth conversation for you. Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak again. This actually is a little bit technical, so I will not go into a lot of details, but just give you an overview of what the situation is. So the global efforts to immunize children with the oral polio vaccine, OPV, have reduced the polio virus cases by 99.99% since 1988. And as I mentioned earlier, that there were 3 strains, but now there is only 1 left, which is the type 1. Now the oral polio vaccine, OPV, is safe, effective, and it interrupts person-to-person spread of polio. The easy oral administration can be conducted by volunteers very easily and is part of many countries' routine immunization programs. So OPV is extensively used in immunization campaigns to root out polio virus, and it is also very cost effective. The cost is less than 15 US cents per piece, per dose, as compared to inactivated polio vaccine, IPV, where the vaccine injection is administered, and naturally it has to be done by the trained officials, health officials, and health workers. It cannot be done just by the volunteers. And per dose cost is about $1. So it is like 1 to 6 cost difference here. Now, what happens is that in some rare cases, in areas with under immunization, poor sanitation, and high population densities, the live weekend virus contained in an OPV can mutate and spread, causing what we call CVDPV, which is circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus. So now more than 10 billion doses of OPV have been given to nearly 3 billion children worldwide since 2000, and just over 1,000 cases of CVDPV paralysis have been registered during this period. So for every million vaccinations with OPV, there are only 3 to 4 children who experience vaccine-associated paralytic polio cases. For us, of course, even one child is more than enough, and we don't really want to have even one child that has to suffer, or the family has to suffer because of polio. But this is, you can say, a sort of a side thing, and overall the benefit is so huge that we have to live with this. Now, to stop transmission, we actually have to vaccinate all children under 5 years of age with OPV. And so that is why now the focus in Pakistan and Afghanistan also is that the government is focusing on not only giving polio drops to the children, they have improved the routine vaccination program, and polio has become is actually a part of this routine vaccination also. So nearly every country has used OPV to stop wild polio virus transmission because it prevents person-to-person spread of the virus, protecting both individuals and the community. OPV is extremely effective in treating both polio virus as well as CVDPV. So please note that CVDPVs are not related to or nor indicative of a re-emergence of wild polio virus. These CVDPVs have emerged as a key challenge in the final stage of eradication efforts. However, outbreaks can be stopped using the same proven technologies and tactics that stopped wild polio virus. For example, strengthening polio surveillance systems and ensuring high vaccination coverage. So because the time is short, I'll just stop here, and I will again appreciate the role of Rotary International and its global partners in realizing we are very close to realizing our dream of a polio-free world, whereby we'll be able to give this gift of a polio-free world to our future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, PDG Shehzad. DG Dolly, can you share with us what has been done in Malaysia, for example, to create awareness of Rotary mission to end polio now? Dolly.
Thank you, CP Charter President Bansing. It was an exciting and challenging end polio now awareness campaign journey when I first started off as a family of Rotary district chair in the Rotary year 2016 to 2017, and subsequently appointed as the chair of the District Polio Plus Committee. With the guidance of then the District Governor, Michael Yeap, and the Rotary Foundation Chair, then past District Governor, Dato Haji Zaini Abdul Akasa, our District 3310 did several activities relating to the End Polio campaign, which include the run, the ride, the walk, the swim, concert, Zumba, selling of End Polio watches, polio mugs, and even planted trees. So my term went on for 3 consecutive years, serving under Governors Dato Lee Chuen Yuan and Henry Tan, respectively. Thank you to all those who have participated directly and indirectly to the events. Despite the many successes we have in our awareness campaign, the journey has not been without challenges and shortcomings. Because there have been no polio cases in Malaysia for the last 28 years since 1992, there were bound to be lapses or complacency amongst us. Some were saying that polio is not our problem. This had hampered our awareness and fundraising campaign to a certain extent. As you all know, that our district is an international district of 3 countries with widely spread across international borders and regions. The challenges here were the logistic, communication, and high cost of transportation and communication. How are we to convince Rotarians to participate and contribute to polio? I was convinced that there was a need to build an End Polio awareness campaign. We were living in a borderless world. Who would think of that Malaysia, after 20 years of being declared a polio-free country, in the year 2000, we suddenly heard the breaking news that on the 6th December 2019, a 3-month-old boy was first diagnosed with the disease in a small town called Tuaran in Sabah, a town from Kota Kinabalu, East Malaysia. Subsequently, 2 more cases were detected, an 8-year-old boy from Sandakan, and the other was an 11-year-old boy from Pendangan, Sandakan. These cases involve a 3-year-old boy also in Sandakan. 3 of the 4 cases detected in Sabah, East Malaysia are non-Malaysians. Let me now share some of the pictures taken by the Sabah Polio Action Task Force, spearheaded by past District Governor Dato Zaini Abdul Akasa, who was appointed by then the District Governor Jeff Yong. The task force is made up of all Rotary clubs in Kota Kinabalu, Tawau, and Sandakan. Here you can see the pictures. The State Health Department immediately conducted large-scale Sabah polio immunization operations since December 27, 2019. In Malaysia, there is an excellent vaccination coverage for Malaysian children. However, the challenges are on the migrant children who are very sizable in numbers, and many are not easily accessible to medical care facilities. The task force met the directors of Department on Health 9 January 2020 to obtain more information about the latest development and to inform the department what forms of assistance Rotarians are able to offer. During the month of January, February, and the first 2 weeks of March 2020, many vaccination operations were carried, which involved Rotary volunteers all over the states of Sabah. A total of 800,000 or 93.2% of children aged 13 and below, regardless of their citizenship status, received their first dosage of bivalent oral polio vaccination, or in short is BOPV. Unfortunately, all these operations were put to immediate halt with the implementation of the Movement Control Order, that is the MCO, on the 18th of March 2020, due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are still in the COVID-19 pandemic world, where borders are closed. Since the easing of the MCO, the medical department has restated the vaccination operations subject to compliance with the strict standards operating procedures imposed by the government. One example of carrying out the vaccination is by the drive-in method. So, apart from providing Rotarians volunteers to support the vaccination operations, funding of US $25,000 were also made available by Rotary International to defray the expenses incurred by the vaccination operation team and the volunteers. All claims are expected to be reimbursed by the month that was last month, October 2020, fully utilizing the funds provided by Rotary International. That's my journey. I hope you have enjoyed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly. We in District 3310 have never thought that we're going to be seeing polio cases, but it's a good thing that we are able to see it. And now we cannot say that it's none of our business. Actually, it's all about our business. Everyone has to be involved. Susanne Rea, when I first got to know you, I've always thought of you as the polio fundraising champion. May I ask you, what motivates you to be so passionate? And can you share about your polio eradication fundraising program called World's Greatest Meal? And what else can we do about it? Susanne?
Thank you. I know you have a presentation which we can show in one second, but I can just bring in the introduction. Why did I become passionate about it? Well, as a polio survivor, I felt it was almost my duty. And as a Rotarian, it is definitely my duty to help end polio. Coincidentally, I had worked for the Annual Programs Fund. And at the end of my 3 years, the district polio chair was going to become DGE. So I obtained that position. When I obtained that position, I thought, what can I do to help end polio? How can I travel around my huge district and speak to people everywhere? Because it's an amazing big district, almost quarter of Australia. So I came up with the idea of a Facebook fundraiser. And together with other people and a team of people, we invented the world's greatest meal to help end polio. So you can see my first slide is up. What is the world's greatest meal? It's actually a fun way to help end polio, because what I decided was that we should have some food, we should have some fun with our friends, and we should give some money for a good cause. So to have fun for a good cause is not a bad thing, and it proved popular with people. So how can you join in? The next slide will start to tell you many ways. We have this little side promotion called Crazy for a Cause. And some of our friends have jumped out of aeroplanes. Some have gone on zip wires. And on the right-hand side, you can just see my club last weekend tramping through the Australian bush. And how did that help end polio? Well, at the end of their little outing, and there were only 13 of them, they decided to have some coffee and biscuits and donate some money for World's Greatest Meal. They donated $390. This, of course, is tripled by Bill and Melinda Gates, so it becomes quite a valuable exercise. No matter how small your contribution, always it's tripled, which is an amazing help. So always we must think about having fun when we're helping to end polio. Next slide, please. During the pandemic, it became obvious that clubs were not having their meetings. We became a little bit of a standstill until we came up with this idea of becoming a proud donor. So on an individual or business basis, people could give any amount of money they chose, over $10 to earn one of these beautiful frames that my husband Nauman makes for them. And we publicize their generosity on Facebook. So we have the granddaughter of one of our team, the little Indian girl there. And on the right, we have a young man in Brazil knocking on the door of a business with his End Polio collecting tin, collecting money from a business. So you have to be creative. The most money we've raised through this little idea is over $1,000, and the least is $10. We have become so busy with the champions that I think in September we wrote over 400 events involving champions and raised quite a lot of money for the Polio Fund. Next, please. Zoom meetings soon took over the Rotary world. It is possible to help end polio through Zoom meetings. Just last night I attended a meeting in Malaysia, and it was very entertaining. Dolly was there too. They were having a feast. Of course, they weren't actually meeting. They were having a feast at home, but they were talking about polio. And one very organized foundation chair gave them very clear instructions on how they could give money. Another one of our team, Dr. Rajesh, had prepaid $50. Soon the money was coming in. I don't have the total yet, but it is possible to raise money through your Zoom meetings by asking your club and those attending to deposit money in the way required. Thank you. We've also been registering quite a lot of special events. This event will take place in North Carolina. There have been people organizing concerts, people drinking wine, people cooking, people running. You just need to combine it with some food, and we feel that that is good enough to register as a world's greatest meal. I'm signed up to talk at some of these. I don't know if I'm ever going to get some sleep over the next few days, but let's see how we go. Next slide, please. This is, again, a special event. This was the visit of our district governor, who's also a World's Greatest Meal team member, Merwin Wright. And I asked her if we could take a picture of all the ladies, all the lady members in our club and the partners. And so just to be fair, we took a picture of all the men as well. At our club meetings, you can give money. You know, if you're actually meeting, it's really easy to pass around a bowl or something and ask people to put $5 or $10 in. They can afford it. Just tell them to do without something, a cup of coffee or a drink, whatever is their thing that they really like, because the children of the world need this money more than they do. We find that businesses can become involved as well. So here we have a 20% off all sales, which is going to help end polio. And this is happening over in District 7020. But I have become aware of quite a few people who've signed up to make meals. They're offering curbside delivery. They're taking over restaurants and serving the meals. They're making meals in their own kitchen and doing all sorts of wonderful things. But involving business is a great idea. Just ask them for one day a year, could you please give us a share of your profits? And you'll find someone who will agree. That might be a Rotarian, but it might not be. So I'm asking you to sign up on worldsgreatestmeal.com, wgmeal.com, to have your event and give the money to the Rotary Foundation. Remember, $10 is the minimum, and that will be tripled by Bill Gates and become $30. $30 will roughly buy 50 vaccines. Then you report to us what you have done, and we celebrate your success on Facebook. Have fun, enjoy yourselves with your fundraising, but above all, remember that we are all in this together. Together, and only together, will we help end polio. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Susanne. I think that the excuse that we can give is have fun, whatever it is, and think about end polio journey now. And so we can contribute towards the wonderful cause, and remembering that for every dollar we give, we can actually get $3 in total. So ladies and gentlemen, don't forget. I'd like to invite John Soe to come back. In the process of certification for the world to be polio free, it takes a very long process and it takes a very long time. Can you share with us what can be done to ensure that this world will eventually become polio free? John.
Okay, thank you, Charter President Banseng. Okay, slide-nya. We are remarkably close to making history by defeating polio, but we must maintain our focus and resolve to achieving a polio-free world. Despite the challenges, we have come a long way in the polio eradication. The eradication effort continues and must be brought to a successful conclusion. In the end, every single child deserves a childhood free from the threat of disease that we know how to prevent. We cannot fix polio once it happens, but we can fix it before it happens. If we fail in our efforts, we could see as many as 200,000 children crippled annually within a decade, and the introduction of polio into previously polio-free countries. Next slide. You do not need to be an expert, next slide, on polio eradications to be an effective advocate. You can keep it simple. Next slide. Let us all take immense pride that our voice, our commitment, and our actions are creating our legacy of doing good in the world. Next slide. My friends, before I finish, I just want to say that the unsung heroes are still out there. Even today, they are immunizing kids with some major threats, so we need to thank them up as well. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Can I have all the panelists back? I like each of us to basically ask, tell the audience what takeaway, one word of wisdom, one takeaway that you want to leave the message for them so that they can continue to think about it. Can I call upon the last person? The last is not the least, but the most important, John Soe. Can you do the concluding final words for us?
Thank you. Have the slide, please. We are this close to ending polio. We must remind ourselves that we have not reached the bus stop in our wild polio eradications. It is just a comma. But with Rotary unwavering commitment to end polio, by the end of this decade, a polio-free world will become a reality, and that will be Rotary's gift to the world.
Wonderful.
Polio.
Susanne, would you like to say a few words? Susanne?
Certainly. Well, I echo what John has just said. Polio eradication is within our grasp. Do not let us waste the last 30 years of effort by not having enough money in the kitty to finish the job. All Rotarians and friends should be giving some money to this amazing cause. Let no child be left unvaccinated through lack of funds.
Thank you. Dolly?
Thank you.
Thank you, Charter President Bansing. The world will not be a happy place for our children if polio is not eradicated. So I urge Rotarians and friends of Rotary to play our part by contributing to our organization, rotary.org/give on October 24th. Let's make it that one day, one focus, ending polio. Thank you very much for your contribution.
The PDG Shehzad.
Okay, can I have the last slide of my presentation here, please? Okay, Rotarians and friends of Rotary all over the world are very supportive of Rotary's global and flagship project of polio awareness and eradication. And I take this opportunity to invite our Rotarian friends from all over the world to come and visit us in Pakistan, and they should come and participate in the polio awareness and eradication activities. The side benefit will be that they will be able to enjoy warm hospitality of the people of Pakistan, and they will experience the real image of Pakistan, not the image which is portrayed in some of the other countries. So with this, I thank you all, and remember, we are this close to ending polio, and we should not stop our efforts till we achieve our goal of polio-free world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I thought I wanted to leave with you two words that needs to be done and to be reinforced in your mind. The first word is immunization, and the second word is surveillance. Immunization and surveillance must continue, and it must continue until the end, when it becomes a full stop and not a comma. The commas comes into place when the world become wild polio free. The full stop come into place when it becomes totally polio free. So ladies and gentlemen, remember two words: immunization, surveillance. Those two must go hand in hand. So ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, thank you for being panelists, and thank you for being with us. All of us would like to leave one same message for all of you. We are this close to eradicating polio. This close. Dolly, are you with us?
Yes.
This close.
Hold on.
Okay. Can we have the closing message for everybody, from everyone, this close? Clarence?
We are this close.
This close.
We are this close.
This close to making history.
This close.
We're this close. This close. We are this close.
We are this close.
This close.
This close to changing the world.
We are this close to making sure no child suffers a crippling disease ever again.
We are this close to making history.
We are this close to ending polio.
We're this close to ending polio.
We're this close.
This close.
This close to ending polio.
This close.
We are this close to ending polio. All we need is you.
All we need is you.
All we need is you. Is you.
All we need is you.
This close. If we don't act now, we may lose this chance forever. Help Rotary make history at endpolio.org.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you at the next panel discussion next month, all right? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.